for
Money
sure.
likes to flow, but you've got to provide the structure.
Exactly. Because otherwise it'll flow everywhere and it won't flow where you want it to flow.
Welcome to the Artful Dollar podcast. It's me, Ryan Roy, artist, financial coach, spiritual seeker of sorts, and I have a very interesting conversation to share with you today. It was an interview that I did. Someone interviewed me talking about a lot of things deep into my spiritual practices, my past experiences with drugs and alcohol and addiction and getting sober, and then using plant medicine like ayahuasca in sobriety, which, you know, I'm sure some people have thoughts on that, but it's a part of my journey. And it was a really interesting conversation. I am so excited to share with you. I felt like when I re-listened to it, I got a ton of value out of it. And I just am really not going to give you any more details other than that. And other than to say, if you're looking for a wild, deep, philosophical, spiritual conversation about money, this is what you're looking for. So enjoy.
Today, we're going to be having a wonderful chat about money and shame and our money identities and how they evolve over time. I guess I first just wanted to start talking about our money beliefs. And when I was kind of thinking about what we might talk about today, I thought, man, so much of our money beliefs are formed in childhood by what we witness in our homes and the way our caregivers and people around us think and talk and believe about money. So I'm curious, did you have that experience when you were a child? What did your parents teach you about money, if anything?
Yeah. So what I've found, and this is a huge part of my work, is our internal story about money, our beliefs, is that either we adopt whatever our parents believed or we resist whatever our parents believed. And that forms our belief system about money. And it's kind of interesting, like you don't have a choice. You do not have freedom to choose to believe whatever you'd like to believe, right? You just have either believing what your parents believed, inherited, from them, or the opposite of. And so my memory is kind of seeing that my dad, I think I had an idea that he earned a decent amount of money, like middle class. He's a therapist. He ran his own business. But I wanted some toy, I think. I think it was a video game I wanted. And he, wasn't going to get it for me and wanted me to, I don't know, earn it, I guess. And I remember thinking something to the lines of like, man, when I grow up, when I make money, I'm just going to buy whatever the fuck I want. And I'm just going to, if it's there, why wouldn't, he clearly has all this money. Why wouldn't he just want to make me happy? Some childish thought like that, And I could see that once I started earning money, I was really good at spending it. And I also became really good at earning it too. Like that earning money was it was just like what you did. I didn't have any resistance around earning money or that money was hard to come by. So that belief never came true for me in the way it actually was very true for my dad. He came up very poor and believed money was very hard to come by.
So did you guys talk about money at home other than that instance where, he's trying to tell you like, hey, if you want it, you got to figure out a way to get it?
We had allowances. This is a good conversation. We had allowances and, weekly allowances. And I don't remember there wasn't like a particular chore or anything that, we had stuff to do around the house, but it wasn't like you earn it in this way. But then if we wanted something like a video game, something that costs more, I was always making deals with my dad about all right, if I ace this spelling test or, learn my multiplication tables and stuff like that. And so he would coach me, tutor me. I would learn it. And then once I accomplished, that, then I could kind of get this bigger reward. So that was there for me. And then I was kind of entrepreneurial at a very early age. And I don't know where I inherited this necessarily. I found these squirrel bones in my friend's backyard. And I was really into collecting bones and animals and taxidermy. And there's a store in Manhattan called Evolution that sells all kind of oddities, rocks, crystals, bones, you name it. And I had it in my mind that I'm going to take these squirrel bones and I'm going to trade them at the Evolution store for a tarantula in a jar. And I was about 8 years old when I came up with this plan. my parents brought me that we went into Soho, and I asked the guy at the counter, like, do you guys trade? I'm 8, he's like, I don't know. Like,
what you got, kid?
Yeah, what you got? And he's like, well, you got to talk to the owner. I was like, hey, do you guys ever trade? And he's like, well, yeah, what do you got? And I showed him my squirrel bones. He's like, what do you want? I said, I want a tarantula in a jar. He's like, let me see what I got. Meanwhile, my dad was like in the background, like about to like wave this $50 bill in the air, like, and we traded. And then it was just like, for me, it was just like, yeah, you just make deals. Like that was life. Like life was like, you just find what people want, you make a deal, you get what you want, and you go through life doing that.
That's so interesting, that foundation of transaction. I find out what you want and I get it, and then I do the thing, and ultimately I get what I want out of that. And I know you talk about your addiction journey publicly. And I was actually once married to an alcoholic. So like I've been very close to the addiction mentality. And I think there's so much resourcefulness of that, like transaction. No, I'm wondering, have you seen any parallels there? Like that transaction, I get what I want, I figure out the game, and I know how to play it, and I know how to walk the line without crossing it. Or do you know what I'm getting at there with money? And
I do, but I can't say I've seen like a direct correlation, because addiction, which is ultimately at its core, it's a spiritual malady. It's a spiritual disease that we're afflicted with, but we're all afflicted with this spiritual disease. It just manifests as a drug addiction or a sex addiction, but it can also manifest as an addiction to under-earning.
Or achievement. It can addiction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it can manifest both ways. So it can be a powerful tool, and I feel fortunate in many ways that I was, addicted is a strong word, but yeah, I mean, you could say I'm addicted to entrepreneurship, to creation. I get a dopamine kick from working. I really like working. I really like creating, whether that's creating art or creating a business or creating networks, relationships. My addiction, coming up, God willing, in June, I'll have 10 years sober from drugs and alcohol, but my addiction, channels itself into other areas.
Yeah. So when was that you first noticed, okay, my addiction that I've channeled into drugs and alcohol, not the right path for me? And did you have a rock bottom moment or a turning point?
Yeah. You know what? I could say in many ways, I'm fortunate that like my rock bottom, although emotionally I felt like a burnt out husk of a human being. Like I didn't lose everything. I didn't, I just felt hollow inside. And I was 26 years old. I'm 36 now. I saw other people that I worked with, other tattoo artists that were 10 years older than me, that were just as addicted, just as broke, just as frustrated in life as I was. And it terrified me. I'm sorry that they had to go through, but that's their journey. But I'm grateful that I somehow saw myself reflected in them, and it scared me. It scared the shit out of me. And that's really what it was. It was terrifying to see like, wow, like if nothing changes, I'm going to be and feel like that. There's no time in the future that it changes. Like it either changes now. Now is the only time. Now is it. All there is now,
Yeah. I mean, there's so much here that you've offered, and like we can go down any path, and we're still early in our chat. So I kind of want to back up and talk about when you said addiction, you were getting at that there's some sort of spiritual malady when it comes to any manifestation of addiction. And I'm wondering what your journey has taught you so far about the root cause of that, or like, yeah, let's jam on that for a little bit.
Jam on that. Let's go down that rabbit hole. So we all have an ego, right? Now the
ego
is not
an ego.
What is ego?
In your definition of ego that you're using here.
So I'm gonna define. So ego it's not good or bad, but it is something that causes us to feel separate from other people, and that we are separate, and we are unique, we are alone, and we have to establish our separateness for better or worse. So it's a lie, essentially. It's a distortion of reality. On a deeper plane of reality, we are all one. And then the illusion is that we are separate. So that's what the ego is. And if we are all one, and now, maybe people don't particularly care for like the word God. I use the word God because it's a symbol for something that I don't understand. But beyond that, I don't know what God is. And I don't claim to know what God is, but I use the word God. So if we are all one and we are all God, then the ego separates us from knowing that we are whole and complete. We are perfection at all times. And so because we're separated from that, we feel this emptiness, this hole. And so then we feel like inadequate or not enough, or that something should be in the place of that hole. The puzzle piece is missing. And so then we seek how to fill that hole through drugs, alcohol, sex, money, relationships, food, whatever it is, or the opposite of, like we either gorge ourselves or starve ourselves out of an attempt to try to control the way we feel, either to avoid feeling the emptiness or to try to fill that emptiness inside. Is that a good description?
Yeah, I subscribe to that as well. I think that separateness is often perpetuated in our early childhood by our parents and caregivers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's like where it's absorbed. The research tells us before age 7, that's when these identities are formed of like who I am and how the world works and how money works or identity. And I think we've just lost the impact of that first decade of life, and if we really understood that, parenting would be like literally the most important job on the planet if we really understood what's happening here in childhood. But no, that separateness. Okay, cool. So we're separated from one another. We're separated from our godlike status or God status. And then all that we're left with is like, I don't know what this is. I can't define it, but I'm going to try all these different things to see.
Our bucket has a hole in it. And when you just go your whole life with a bucket with a hole in it, and you think, oh, if I do this, then I'll fill the bucket. But the bucket's just constantly draining. And so nothing you ever do, no amount of work, no amount of money, no amount of anything, no relationship will ever fill that bucket. It's impossible.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting when we look at all the surface layer stuff, that things that could be wrong that, there are fixes for. So if that's the health and wellness industry and exercise and diet, or even in this conversation about money, you can obviously get more credentials or get more training and charge more in different service areas. Like there are simple ways to elevate your income or set up automated systems for investing or whatever that might make just gloss right over that hole that's still there. But it's a sneaky little devil, right? It's going to come up in some area of your life. And I think what you're saying is like, you have this hole until you just realize I actually don't have a hole and I am God, or I am complete, or we are one.
Not even that. What I'm saying is that you have a hole and you will always have a hole. You will always have a hole. You will always feel empty, inadequate, and no one wants to be with this. Everyone wants to be with, but if I just fill it with, you mean I fill it with God and then I'll not have a hole? Okay. Well,
God can be a drug too. Like that's my big thing with the church.
Exactly. I think that's kind of what's gone wrong with a lot of religions. Yes. Is that people actually think they can fill the hole, they can stop having that hole with the religion, with God. And actually, that's not what religion is trying to say.
Right. No, I'm with you.
It's actually that if you can embrace, so for alcoholics, right, we couldn't get sober until we fully accepted that we are an alcoholic. I can't drink alcohol safely. It will never work for me. It will never really do what I wanted to do in my life. And as long as there was like a little inkling like, well, maybe it will one day, right? I was just going to suffer. I was going to suffer in sobriety or in drinking. It didn't matter. But when I saw, I'm a sick and suffering individual, and that's okay to be sick and suffering. It's okay to have a hole. Then it doesn't matter how much money you have, relationships you have. You can be whole and complete with your hole.
Totally. I think so much of that is awareness and, being mindful of nervous system triggers throughout your day and like, that's just my hole being activated. And I've, watched some of your content and things on social, and you're like talking about awareness and not trusting your thoughts. And I think that's where we can go down that path of saying, our mind does try to make meaning of circumstances, may not really be true. I'm a big fan of once you learn to regulate your nervous system, your body is where the true wisdom is, and you can trust your body, but it is your mind that's just like running on autopilot, making crazy stories just based on, like I said, that upbringing, the ego, as you put it, whatever sponge you soaked up, whatever stories, you're just seeing the whole world through those lenses.
Hey, all you Artful listeners, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for giving a listen to the podcast. I hope that it's bringing some value to you in your life. That's really why I started this podcast. And if you're getting something useful or valuable out of it, I just want to invite you to go rate and review this podcast. It really helps me out. And it also helps other people find this podcast so that they can get some value out of it. They can feel more free around money and just get some wisdom and some knowledge that we're trying to share on here. So again, I'm not really asking anything else of you other than to just leave a review and rating for this podcast. It really helps me out and it helps other people find us. So thanks and enjoy the show.
But to bring it back to money and this belief, I think what we see a lot of is, especially in tattooing, there's this, how dare you charge more? Russ gets that a lot. People think, it's like robbery, or there's some weird money mindset there, specifically in this industry. So I'm wondering what's your observations there, and what do you think is the root of it?
So I've been doing I go through like waves or periods of deep meditation practice and journaling practice, and then I'll pull away from it and I'll go back into it. And I've recently been every day, 30 to 60 minutes meditation, followed by, usually 20 to 45 minutes of journaling every morning.
Yeah.
Wake up extra early to do this. And this morning, what was coming up for me, so I talk about ayahuasca ceremonies, and like within the 12-step community, there's obviously some debate between, there's a chemical that you're ingesting, and is that, in my experience, ayahuasca is purely a medicine. It's prescribed by a doctor. Most of the time, at least the doctor that I do it with is prescribed by, it's just not a Western doctor. It's a shaman from Colombia, but it's a powerful medicine. And so I'm bringing that up, and I even have some stuff to share about the ego that I learned through ayahuasca ceremonies. But in my meditation came up something that I learned in one of my first ayahuasca ceremonies, where I was in this pretty incredible, blissful, non-dual dimension, let's say. And I had this thought that I don't deserve to be here in the ceremony. And the mother entity that you meet during these ceremonies, she came and she said, that thought that I don't deserve here, it was like a line of code in my mind. She was like, we're going to remove that. And she cut it out of my mind and took it out. And I had this intense ego death experience after that, mourning my own death, crying over the fact that Ryan is gone. But that code wasn't fully removed. It eventually comes back. And I saw it again in my meditation this morning, that I don't deserve to have everything that my heart desires, not like my mind desires, but everything that my heart desires. I don't deserve to have that, this feeling, this belief. I think it's so blanketing powerful in your life. So if you see someone charging something and you're judging them or thinking something, right, that stems from a belief in yourself that you can't do what they're doing, that you can't charge, and so then you're going to justify it, and you're going to find evidence to prove your justifications and your beliefs, but it's triggering a belief in you that you don't deserve to have XYZ. That's what I think today. I'm going to do something tomorrow.
I get that. I get that we're only aware of our current state of awareness. So I appreciate that you said that. But also, any thought that we have of another is just a projection of our own understanding and those thoughts that are running in the back of our heads.
Because again, the ego is the illusion that we are separate, but we are all one. So when someone pisses you off or someone's bothering you, it's just a mirror reflecting you back at yourself, reflecting something about yourself that you have a hard time accepting. You're either resisting or maybe you're attached to. I've been thinking a lot about cringe. People talk about cringe on social media and manifestation and cringy things. People, and I had this idea that when you see someone and you have that cringe feeling, what's going on there? This is what I think. I think that there's your inner child sees how playful and expressed something is being, and your inner child so wants to just be that beautiful, full, unlimited expression, and then your machinery your ego, your identity crushes it down. It's like, no, you don't want that. Are you crazy? And that's the feeling of cringe.
Yeah, I think that notion has really been embraced by like the drag community. Go with me, because they'll say they have gone on the journey to get to the point where they're okay with being fully self-expressive. And if you watch the drag queens, they'll say, look, I'm just triggering you because I'm being fully expressed.
Yes. Yeah.
You're shutting it down because you are not fully expressed. And that's really not, like, go with God. That's not really my problem.
Right.
Yeah. So it's the same notion. And I'm going to bring this all the way back to like parenting. I don't know why I always jam in parenting, but I think it's just because I realize it's so important. So I have two.
You have
I have 2 daughters.
I have one. Three. Yeah.
Okay. Mine are 7 and 10, but it's like that you get triggered so often as a parent by the emotional expression of your child. It just like time travel. You just transport right back to your own childhood when something is coming up. And it's always so revelatory when there is a big meltdown, or there is what we call disrespect in this culture, or anything where a child is asserting him or herself and it triggers the parent, and then the parent tries to shut it down. It's my opinion that like that is just our inner child still being activated and reminding us of when we were children and we were shut down and our whole selves were not welcome, reinforcing that separateness as you talked about and the creation of the ego. So I think if we really took a lens at all of our relationships, parent to child, intimate relationships, our relationship with our elderly parents, coworkers, even our relationship to money, to what you just said, like anytime we're triggered, it's, hey, what's this bringing up inside of me? It has nothing to do with another person. It's really not their problem. It's like what you said. Are you attached to it? Are you not accepting what's happening here? Do you think that holds true?
That is the reason I work with money. The reason I became a financial coach is not because I like money or because I'm good at money or anything. That's not why I became a financial coach. I became a financial coach, and I work with money specifically because money is one of the most triggering things that we deal with in our lives. I don't really know of anything that is more triggering than money. And that makes money such a powerful spiritual tool to learn about ourselves. Money becomes the portal through which you can learn about who you really are when you're willing to look at it. And it's terrifying. And you know how I know it's terrifying? I meet with, sometimes 10 to 12 tattoo artists, but other people outside of tattooing. I've worked with real estate agents and Reiki masters and hairstylists. I do these free, hour-long consultations to help people see, where they're at, what's their relationship with money, and what's the impact, and where do they want to be, and then what is it that they need to get there and become whole. And people will say to me, Ryan, I have been wanting to book this call for 6 months. I've been terrified to book this call. I almost canceled on you this morning. You can't even believe I'm here. And I say, I know. And thank you for showing up. And thank you for being willing to stand in all of that resistance and uncomfortability and avoidance, because it takes a big person to do that. It takes a really big person to do that and show up in the face of that. That's why I work with money.
That's huge. I'm curious, now that I know that you have a 3-year-old and you're in the money space, what sort of money narratives are happening in your home? How do you handle the I want everything at the stores with your child?
You know what? The hard part isn't the I want everything. I mean, I deal with that. The hard part for me is I want to give her everything. I want to treat her. I want to spoil her. And it's not going to be healthy. I'm not going to create a healthy dynamic to do that. And so I have to be very conscious of that.
Yeah. If you're aware of it, what does that look like? How do you operationalize that?
It's just so easy to just think of like, the thing on Amazon, or, you get marketed all this crap, on the internet, and like, oh my God, Beta would love that. She would just have so much fun with that. And it's like, wait, but like, and then you're like, well, it's going to be like an educational experience. So, you like justify it. And so actually it's, been important that I check on, with her mom, my ex-wife, and we talk and say, hey, we're co-parenting and what's appropriate. And sometimes I cross the line and she's like, hey, Ryan, like you can't do that. It's not going to be good. And then I get defensive, but I know you're right. And I'm willing to hear that. And so we'll hide it up in the closet for, another time or something like that. But yeah, no, it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. No one comes into parenting fully equipped and with all the right, so it's a learning process. My daughter's name is Veda, which means wisdom. She's my teacher. I knew she was going to be my greatest teacher. And yeah, she's proven to be the greatest teacher so far.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remind my children all the time, money is made up. Like, it's just this notion that we've all agreed on. Like, the trees don't know money or time as a construct, like being late or things like that. So when we talk about things that are real versus things that are not real, I don't know. I try to bring them into that space, and they can hang for a while, but they much want to play like Roblox.
I create money as a game. So let's play a game of money. And like, she's 3.5. She like kind of knows what money is. I'll sometimes go to the store, we'll go buy groceries, and I'll give her money to give to them. And she'll want, you go to the grocery store, she wants to eat the thing right out of the package right there, And I say, no, we have to buy it, and then I'll give her the money and she'll pay for it. And like, now we can eat it. But really teaching, be like, that's how capitalism works, honey.
Right.
But right. But I view money as a game. It's just a game for me. That's it. It's all it is. At the end of the day, it's just a game. Mm-hmm. And I learn the rules of the game, and then I strategize and I play the game. I have fun. The way you play a game is a form of self-expression, right? Like a soccer player on the field, they're not just kicking a ball. They are expressing themselves fully through the game of soccer. Same thing with chess or, any other game. Like, someone who's really good at a game, it's not because they just know all the rules and they do it logically. It's because they actually are artistic and creative and expressive in their playing of the game. So I do that with money, and that's what I hope to teach her. I always think about this all the time. If she couldn't inherit $1 from me, right, and she got no financial backing at all, what would I want to teach her? One is, just be kind to everyone without expectation of reciprocation. And two, that money is a game. And if you just believe those two things and you play the game and you're kind to people without expectation of reciprocation, you will probably go very far in life.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I think learning that the whole thing is a game, and not that you're trying to cheat the game or beat the game. It's just like, you can understand your position in the non-reality.
It doesn't even work. It actually just hurts you.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't play the rules of the game. It stops being fun, Then we think about, well, shit, I'm trying to cheat my taxes. I'm trying to cheat the government. I'm trying to cheat. But it's all part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we can resist the rules being the way the rules are. But there is a cost. There is a price. And it ultimately stops being fun. No one's having fun trying to hide from the government, trying to hide their income from the government. It's stressful as fuck. It's like, how do I stay and I don't want to take credit card payments, and so I'm going to keep it all in cash, and I'm going to do that. It's like, that's not a fun game in my experience. And
it's a small
game intended to be played.
It's like, once you get into the world of the government and understanding tax law, you realize it's actually in your favor once you really understand it. I'm like, they have set it up very, very nicely for everyone to prosper if you get in there and understand it.
Yeah. Someone I really admire, a mentor, this guy, Mike Taylor, he was a professional skateboarder who then got into private equity investing and owns a private equity company. But another one of the, weirdo people that ended up in finance, he says the taxes are just a roadmap to build wealth. So if you look at it that way, then you get to play that game. But if you look at it as an oppressive system that's designed to fuck you up and keep you down, well, then you're going to play that. And something my dad always says is, you're always winning the game you're playing.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of that. So how can people know? And it seems like one of those tough businesses to be in. And like, if you're reliant on other people to have an epiphany, I need assistance, I need a coach, I need a mentor in my money world. How do people recognize, like, oh yeah, that's me? I might need to look at this differently. Are there some common signs or symptoms?
Look, I think at the end of the day, it can be a lot like alcoholism, drug addiction, where we kind of live in denial about it. And we live not really being present to, and I say we, maybe most of us, or I'll speak for myself. Let's do that. Most of my life, I lived being completely unaware that the way I was doing money was not working for me, and it was never going to work for me. and it was only hurting me. I was not aware of that. And I was not aware that there is a way to be free and expressed around money that leaves me just like free, like real finance. That to me, that's financial freedom. If you have an unhealthy relationship with money and you have millions of dollars, that's not financial freedom. That's a fucking prison built up by millions of dollars, you know? And if you have $30,000, if you make $30K a year and really work on your relationship with money and actually feel whole and complete, first of all, I actually think that you will naturally start to attract more. I think money wants to come to people that have a healthy relationship with it and kind of play the rules the right way. And I don't like the word right way, but
there's some structure there.
There's some structure there. Yeah, for sure.
Money likes to flow, but you've got to provide the structure.
Exactly, because otherwise it'll flow everywhere and it won't flow where you want it to flow.
Yeah.
It does like to flow. It's an energy, you know. But yeah, I think you can be financially free at any income level. And I know there are going to be people that disagree with me, and that's okay. It might trigger something, and that's okay. Because I think that if you find that financial freedom internally, your external situation starts to shift. That's my personal belief.
And that goes back to that puzzle piece mentality of, okay, I am just incomplete, but I'm okay with that. What can I do now? Here's a question that I ask myself. Who do I need to become, right?
Yeah.
Who do I need to become to do the thing? And you can fill in the blank. So if you want to make, I don't know, let's call it $500,000 a year, you have to say, who do I need to become to make $500,000 a year? What does that person think like? What do they act like? How do they carry themselves?
So we were talking about our inner child. This is my concept of our inner elder.
Go ahead.
We actually need to start to think about, and so just like we need to create a healthy relationship with our inner child, which I 100% agree with, we do need to create a healthy relationship with our inner elder. This, again, if time is an illusion, right? This linear time, it's all simultaneously in the one perfect moment, then our inner elder already exists just like our inner child is present with us in this moment. And so, you know, in the quantum soup of infinite possibility, infinite potential, there is a version of you that is living that life that you earn $500,000 a year, you have whatever business in place. That person, they believe that they deserve to live that life. You cannot receive, and you certainly cannot maintain any life, income, career that you don't truly believe you deserve. And so this is what came up in my ceremony and in my meditation this morning. It was like, if I don't believe I deserve it, it won't happen for me. It can't happen for me. And even if it did happen, it couldn't be maintained. I like to envision my inner elder, the older version of Ryan. Now, this could be 5 years or 10 years older, or it could be 30 years older. But I like to envision what do they believe? What would they have to believe to be able to create the extraordinary life that they live?
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if there's a difference between believing and knowing.
So you can know something, and then you can like really get something. And so the word believe can be a little debatable. You know, I actually really like to look at like, who are we being? You're a being in the world. We're human beings. We're human, the animal, right? And then we have a being about us in the world. It's actually this whole field of ontology, the science of being. Beliefs is almost like surface level because who you're being generates your beliefs. So if you're being deserving of everything your heart desires, then you will naturally believe that you deserve that.
Yeah.
But it's a much trickier thing to get at, and I've participated in a lot of different kinds of education that have, you know, helped me looking at, you know, the realm of being. To me, that's been like where that's where the gold is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In my practices, it's embodiment, but it's the same thing, different words.
Same thing, different, and all these things have that, right? Words are just symbols for things that we ultimately can't fully even say anyway. So, but yes, I agree with you. Embodiment for sure.
Yeah. Let me see what I wrote down a few things. So, oh my goodness, it's already 11:45. We only have about 15 more minutes. I'm curious, in your work and working with other clients, you know, we've talked about that feeling of that puzzle piece missing, or, you know, that code running through your brain of like, I don't deserve this, I'm not good enough. And then I think we find ourselves in these defense postures where we're trying to prove our value to someone. And I think this comes in when we're selling or marketing ourselves. And I'm wondering if you've experienced any like narrative flips where you're really not having to prove or force your value. You're calling out the value of another person. And that's essentially how you might sell them. Does any of that land with you?
Yeah, I've studied a lot about sales over the past couple of years, becoming a coach and then learning how to have a proper sales conversation. And the things that apply at the core of the art of sales, because it really is an art form. And normally when we think of sales, we think of cheesy, pushy salesmen. And I just want people to understand that's not at all what I'm talking about. Ultimately, being pushy is not a good sales tactic. So that's not helpful. Don't do that. But I was so worried that I was going to be pushy. I so resisted being pushy that I resisted selling myself at all whatsoever. I was so afraid that someone was going to think I was being pushy or something, when there's a big difference between being pushy and being a stand for someone that they have a powerful transformation in their life. Huge difference. And so there's a need or a demand, right? For anything you do, you offer, you don't create the demand or create the need. The need and the demand already exists. Okay. And then whatever you do, whether you're selling tattoos or financial coaching, or I don't know why, dog shoes, that came to mind, like anything, right? There's already a need or a demand for it. Now, your audience might not even know they need it. And there's a whole like kind of layers of awareness thing. Ultimately, you're not forcing people or telling them they need this. They already either need it or they want it. And so then all there is to do is shine your light in the world brightly and regularly, frequently, and preferably in the direction of the niche of people that are desiring or needing what you offer. Again, this can apply to anything, but we're often so afraid that we might come off, someone might judge us, we're afraid of what other people think of us ultimately. And so then we don't shine our light in the world. And I've been doing a lot of diving into this concept. I created a game. I created a marketing game that I call the Lighthouse Game. And the whole purpose of the game is to shine your light brightly and regularly, and having specific daily, weekly, monthly actions to take. That if you just take these actions, get past your perfectionism, get past your fear of judgment, just simply take the actions, your light will be shining in the world. And then more people that want or need what you offer will see it, and they will come to you. And then it won't be hard to sell yourself.
Yeah. Perfectionism is just fear of judgment, right?
Yeah.
Another one of those. It's masked really beautifully. But
I was tattooing this stoner metal guy that I tattooed quite a bit. And he's like classic, like Wayne's World stoner metal dude. He's like, dude, like, perfectionism is like the opposite of done.
Done,
like getting done, being finished.
Oh.
Completed.
Yeah.
Perfect is the opposite of done.
Yeah.
So you can either get it done or it can be perfect.
Right.
But it can't be done and perfect.
Yeah. I think you can also just apply that to your lighthouse mentality of, hey, I'm not going to be perfect when I do this. And that mantra of like, if you wait until you're ready, it's too late. It's like you will become the lighthouse as you shine your light.
Yeah. Someone in my course was saying this the other day, and I love it. You can't think your way into taking the right actions. You can only take action into thinking the right thoughts.
Yeah.
So that's the point of the Lighthouse Game. It's like, let's just take the actions, and then you'll start to actually kind of have fun marketing yourself, believe it or not. Coming from a recovering, terrified to market myself person, it actually becomes a fun game, and it actually becomes like cool, and like you get to shine and be that. Because again, it goes back to that whole cringe thing. I would see people and I would judge them, and I'd be like, but I also want to be as expressed as they are ultimately. Right. And then but I was afraid that other people were going to judge me if I was expressed, because I was judging other people. You see how crazy it is? We're all so crazy.
We're all just judging each other. Yes. The judgment is paralyzing if you buy into it. Mm-hmm. It's what keeps us all sedated from full expression.
And keeps us disconnected from each other. Remember I was saying I was going to share something from one of my ayahuasca ceremonies about the ego?
Yes.
Here's how I describe ayahuasca. And you could say this about a lot of psychedelics maybe, but like ayahuasca is very unique. It is not like mushrooms. It is not like LSD. It's not like anything that I've ever experienced. It's like taking a radio that can only receive frequencies between this and expanding the potential of what it's capable of receiving, right? So then you can receive messages, encounters from other dimensions that you're normally not able to encounter, deal with. And I met these beings from another dimension, and they were like blue. Their skin almost looked like it was made of outer space. I don't know how to, but they were like creatures, you know, no features or anything like that. And they were just telling me, they're like, yeah, we made the ego in our dimension. They said, look, we're all one. And then we invented this thing called the ego. And then we were like playing with it. It was like a novelty to like individuate and then go back into being unified. Yeah. And they could play with it. And it was just like this fun, like a novelty game for them. They could be in the ego. They could unattach from the ego freely and endlessly. And I was like, that's fascinating. And they said, yeah, and we thought that you in your dimension, that you would enjoy the ego. So we gave it to you. But then you forgot that it was a game. You forgot that you could just hop in and out of it and it's not needed. You just stayed in the game and you forgot that the game was a game. And I was like, oh, wow. And they said, so look, we're not here to like destroy your ego. It's not the purpose of spirituality, isn't to destroy your ego. It's to loosen the grip that the ego has over you so that you can freely move in and out of it when it's needed, because it serves a purpose. There's also a use case for it. But, you know, if you only had a hammer and you just tried to do everything you needed with that one tool, it wouldn't go very well. And so the ego is just one tool in an arsenal of spiritual tools, you could say.
Yeah, there's so much there to like unpack. So like, just to be clear, these blue interstellar beings exist in reality.
In the dimension,
now, but we just can't, our radio is not able to.
Our radio is not able to receive and yeah.
Right. So then if this is all true and what the message they gave you about the ego, you know, and then there's the whole spiritual thing of like, you also choose your lifetime and the role that you're going to play and you pop in and out of lifetimes over time. Have you heard that like the most spiritually evolved people choose to drop into an ego or a life of the person who is, let's say, disabled or has a, you know, some sort of bodily affliction that might cause them to live a harder life than usual? Have you heard that? And I'm wondering if you subscribe to that.
Yeah. One of my really close friends, he has pretty severe scoliosis. And he's also someone I've done a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies with. And that's what he realized, is that his body was actually a gift that he was given for having done so much work on himself in past lives, that he was given this beautiful gift of his body that is in constant pain and that he struggles, that he resists being in this body, and yet it is the greatest spiritual teacher that he's ever been given. And I believe that about all of the afflictions that we deal with. And again, our ego doesn't want to agree with that statement, but all of the hard stuff is a gift. And if we can just take a breath and again identify the bodily sensations that are being triggered by it and all that stuff and separate them from the thoughts, because the body sensation and the thought are two very different things. We collapse them and then that, you know, becomes very difficult to navigate. Yeah, man. So many of the hardest, most challenging in the moment, things that seemed like the worst possible thing that could happen. Later down the line, I reflect back and I'm like, man, I'm so glad that happened, because it's like the best thing that could have happened to me.
Yeah, I think as we kind of wind it up and thinking about money, and we've covered the full gamut. Forrest was right. He was like, you two are some of the most well-read hippies I know. You'll be But I think one of the offerings I think we could talk about for money is to just observe ourselves and our thoughts and our triggers around money and just say, why? What is it? Why am I feeling this? Like, if you can just bring some awareness, even in your transactions at the grocery store, like, oh, that's expensive. Like, is it? Is it expensive? Or like when we consider how much we earn compared to how much other people earn, or setting up retirement savings and talking about those structures that allow the money to just flow into your life. I just think it's so interesting to really become mindful of our triggers as light bulbs. They're like opportunities to say, okay, there's something here for me.
Yeah.
And so around money,
I believe that money is confusing. That was a very limiting belief that I subscribed to for a very long time until it wasn't anymore. And I don't find money to be confusing at all anymore. Like, it's very it's playful. It's like you get into a board game, and every time you play like a new big, like, they have all these crazy complex board games. You're like, oh, this is confusing. But then you play one round and you're like, I get it, and then you just have fun playing the game. So money is like that. It isn't inherently confusing, but you certainly believe that it's confusing. And that belief is only going to make available a certain experience of money.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get curious, like you said, bring your awareness. I was like, get curious, almost playful, like a child. Like, wow, I believe money's confusing.
Right.
Fascinating.
Yeah. What else? I sometimes ask myself, what else is available here? What is an alternative thought, right?
Yeah.
What else could be true?
Yeah. Have you ever read the book, The Illusion of Money?
No.
By Kyle Cease.
Okay.
Kyle Cease, The Illusion of Money. Really, really good. Excellent book. And he has all these great exercises. It's all mindset, but I believe that's where the goal is. So like all the systems, all the investments, all the stuff, you can learn it all, and we're just, how do I make more money? And it's like, but if everyone just started there, the relationship, the internal stuff, the bodily, mental, like all that other stuff would be so much easier. You're like fighting against the stream to learn it all and get it all and make it work for you. But if you just started back at the internal work, the external work all becomes much easier and much more rewarding.
Yeah, there's an entire movement in the overlapping fields of spirituality and business. It's a movement of burn the business plan. And there are even books that are even called that, where it's like, once you've come to this understanding and you're playing the game and all the money, like it makes absolutely no sense to set out these 6, 12 month, 3-year, 5-year long business plans when you're in the space of allowance and you understand whatever comes my way, we'll just roll with it. It's an interesting.
I like making the business plans. I really do. I like looking at the historical data and then creating the business plan and then projecting out, 6, 12 months, years even. But knowing that like this is just pure, like this is the sketch of what actually will happen.
Yeah, this is
what we all know. The sketch never looks like the finished tattoo.
Right.
But the sketch is necessary and helpful in getting to that thing. But then you get into the tattoo, you get in the flow. There's times you're just watching your hand tattoo and you're like, I don't even think I'm in charge of my hand right now. It's just doing something. The same thing can happen for business and for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was such a great conversation. Thank you so much.
This was so much fun. Absolutely. This is the stuff I really want to be talking about. So thanks for making it happen.
Yeah, totally. And I'm thankful that, Launchpad is a place where we can talk about all this stuff and it doesn't seem crazy and it does seem applicable and also approachable. It's not just pie in the sky woo-woo shit. It's like, no, this is tangible and normalized even. So
yeah, it's been my experience. I do need to see it to believe it. And I've seen it and I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ryan Roy, everyone, do you want to say like where people can check you out if they're not already following you?
Oh yeah. Ryan Roy Tattoo on Instagram. That's like the best place. I'm pretty active there and you can chat with me if you got questions.
Yeah. All right. Well, y'all have a good Sunday. We'll talk soon.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, I just want to prompt that if you got some value out of this conversation, please go and leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you saw this podcast. It really helps me out and it really helps other people to find this podcast. I want more people to have these types of conversations around money so that we can all be more free and at ease and abundant and able to create the lives that we really want to live. So please share this and rate and review. Appreciate it. Thanks.